All right, good morning. Welcome. Happy Saturday. It's not morning for you. Happy whatever day it is if it's not Saturday for you. Let me find the chats here. Where'd the other one go? Oh, I didn't break it out yet. All right. Cheers to anyone out there with your beverage of choice. Coffee for me this morning, most mornings. What's up, Tyth? I've been resisting the Factorio thing for a while, but this might push me over the edge. Yeah, it's dangerous if you like certain kinds of challenges. Certainly, like I've put a lot of hours into Factorio, let's say, but I really enjoy it. I get a lot of entertainment out of it. Get a lot of joy out of it. Get a lot of problem solving, happy brain feelings out of it. I do go in waves though. Like I have recently picked it back up again. I played I played a lot way back before 1.0 Factorio came out. I don't remember the exact year that would have been, but it was I got into it a bit before 1.0 because I remember the 1.0 launch and I played it a lot back then. Kind of put it down for a little while and would pick it up occasionally here and there and play it for a couple weeks at a time and then put it back down. And then recently, for people who don't know, in Factorio they had Space Age, the expansion launched. I picked it up and played it a while when that came out and kind of put it back down, chilled off on it for a bit, and then picked it up again more recently. And then got back to this idea that we will work on today. So let's set the stage for that, and I will do a brief introduction for anybody that might be new. First of all, welcome and thanks for watching. My name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. I usually stream at this time each week or around this time each week, working on stuff related to CircuitPython. You can learn more about CircuitPython if you don't know what it is at the main website, circuitpython.org. Is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. And if you choose to use CircuitPython with these devices, there's lots of ways you can program them. But with CircuitPython, you plug it into your computer. It shows up like a thumb drive. Typically, you can save, or I should say, you can open and edit the Python code file that's on that thumb drive. And then when you save it, the microcontroller, the computer that's in the little chip here, will actually interpret and execute that Python code for you. And then today, my goal is to integrate one of these microcontrollers. In fact, this one, it happens to be a Pico W, with the game Factorio. So we'll get into how that's going to work and what we want to do with it in a little while. As always, we will say thanks to Adafruit. Adafruit is the ones who make CircuitPython possible. They're a hardware and software company based out of New York. They pay myself and the rest of the team of folks who work full-time and part-time on CircuitPython projects. So huge thanks to them for paying developers to work on software that gets open sourced. I really appreciate that about them. And huge thanks to everyone who supports them in doing that by purchasing hardware from them at their website, adafruit.com. They sell microcontrollers and all sorts of other bits and bobs and pieces that you can hook up to your microcontroller to do fun things with. I did not set up the camera. Let's up here at least so we're kind of partially ready. But yeah, I think that Factorio gets a lot of, this is like one of the rare times where a portrait would actually be kind of convenient for this camera. Oh, let me just bash the keyboard. I don't know if that will actually have everything visible or not, but Oh, we're doing that one, okay. Okay, not quite. Uh, I have this thing, which is not necessarily specific to CircuitPython. This is just a generic sort of industrial button thing. You can buy these off the internet, or at least you could a few years ago. I assume you still can. Inside of it, I have a Raspberry Pi Pico W. It's in there. I can't light it up very well, so you can see the edge of it. Maybe you can see the boot button right there. But beyond that, you'll just have to believe me. That's a Pico W in there. Set this back on. Eventually, I will screw these in. Yeah, I think this is a very pleasing. This one has a very pleasing chunk, and the huge red button is nice. And then you got to turn it, and it's got a nice click up as well. The key is like cool to have a button with a key. The actual key itself is pretty lame as far as keys go. It's like a little luggage locker kind of thing. Definitely not necessarily a great key or lock, but cool that it's on a button and feels fun to play with. Okay, so to set the background a little bit before I dive in, first of all, if you're interested in the ancient background on this, you can go back to Tim from 2 years ago, working on the same thing, essentially, in terrible need of a haircut. I can feel how hot he is from here. But a couple of years ago, I actually worked on this and got this working to where I could use the buttons and the key and the red thing here to kind of control a rocket launch inside of Factorio. For anyone who doesn't know, in Factorio, the original game, the sort of main goal of the game, to like beat the game, is to launch the rocket. You could keep playing after that, and you can launch 1,000 rockets and 1,000,000 rockets, or like you can just keep doing more stuff. But that was kind of like the official, okay, you beat the game, congratulations moment, was launching the rocket. And I always wanted to set it up with an actual sort of like factory button thing like this, where we could count down and push the button and have a nice kerchunk and all of that. And I got this working back then, and I played around with it for a little bit, but didn't really take it much farther. And then more recently, it popped back in my head, and I've been playing Factorio a bit more lately. And so I was like, let's pick that up and see if we can't do some more interesting stuff with it. And this time around, I am hoping to try to get it into a state where it's more usable by other people. So the way that I got it working in that older video was very hard-coded, and I just kind of grabbed an entity in the game, like hard-coded, and kind of gave it special signals that were for this. But that's not great for like trying to let anyone else use it. So this time around, I have built up a very, 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 very basic Factorio mod, which is written in Lua. That's another thing about Factorio. It's very easy to mod. In fact, the base game is essentially a mod of the engine, essentially. And it's all written in Lua. So it's very easy to kind of do stuff in there if you can write Lua, which I don't have a lot of experience with, but as far as like languages go, programming languages, it's pretty easy to understand, even though I don't have formal, practice or whatever with it. Yeah, so I made a mod. We're going to have custom entities so that we're not just kind of like hijacking a random item in the game and giving it special abilities. This time we'll like make our own item that is for this and has this behavior and all that stuff. Okay. Getting a little bit more into the technical side of how this works, and then I'll start actually working on it here in a moment. So one of the things that Factorio supports is a protocol called Archon, which I think is like a more widely used thing for a lot of games and perhaps other stuff. The old Google AI here wants to tell us a bit about it. Basically, it's like a remote connection through a network. Usually it's kind of serial in nature. You connect to it and you can send text. And usually the way it's hooked up is in games, you would send text and that would like run commands in the game. So like Minecraft, Factorio, lots of games have the ability to run a command. And this gives you the ability to run those commands over the network. In Factorio, commands can just have Lua code inside them. So if we connect to the Archon port over the network, we can send text to it, and our text can contain commands that contain Lua. The Lua will execute inside the game and do, whatever we want, essentially, because again, the modding API is like very vast. You can essentially do almost anything. And then one more layer down, if we actually go into the game, I will show you what we are doing when I send these Archon messages in. And then we will actually start making it do more and interesting stuff, hopefully. So let me close this. I don't really need this part. We can open Factorio. Another thing that I have figured out this time around, which is nice, is I figured out a way that I don't need to run the headless server locally explicitly. Back in that old video from a couple of years ago, I had like started up the server and then I was connecting to the server with Archon, and then I also started up Factorio Client, the game, and then connected to the server. I don't know if it actually did work back then, and I just didn't realize it, or if it didn't work back then and it's a thing now. But in any case, now I have figured out that you can host the game inside the game. Like you can host the server inside the game, and you can have that Archon port active. I had to go find a special menu inside the game, like debug menu or whatever. I had to go turn it on and set the port. But after doing that, I was able to connect to Archon just using the server instance that's now running. So like I'm inside the game here. I am in sandbox mode, so I don't have like a character. I'm just kind of a satellite floating around, being able to zoom into stuff. But we're inside the game there, and I can connect to that game with Archon. And so an easy one I can use to test it here is this thing I made that will write a message. So I've got Python as a string, and I have got this set read combinators template, which is not probably one we need. So what state did I leave this in? So this one is gonna just set, well, yeah, okay, so that's gonna do the message. Okay, so that's gonna iterate through. So let's run this real fast. So that runs. We go back to here. Oops, did I seriously do that? Oh no, you know what it is? That's actually kind of funny. You know what it is the last message that was there actually had a G, and my code doesn't clear it out. So yeah, we ended up with the old typo there. Change it to an H for now. No, we can't do an H because actually there's already an H there. Python A. That's funny. Sometimes I make that typo. This time it was not actually a typo, but we led to the same place. Okay. So how did we get these letters onto this thing in the game? So if you're unfamiliar with the game, then I'll try to give you just enough to know what we're doing here. So this is a kind of customized version of an item that's already in the game. This item, the constant combinator. The way that a constant combinator works is it just emits signals, and you can set whatever signal you want. So like, let's say we wanted to have the signal A and we wanted it to have the value 1. We could have any numeric value, so we could set it to 10 or a million or whatever. And this constant combinator will now just emit this signal A, and that signal can go and get used by more complex, they call them combinators. They're all combinators. So there's a decider one, there's a arithmetic one, there's a selector one, which is a bit more advanced. And these can manipulate the signals. So the arithmetic one can take A and, you know, add 5 to it and then put it back out as B or whatever, right? The decider one can say, like, if A is greater than 5, you know, then output Z or whatever. And with these basic building blocks, you can kind of automate and program other stuff to happen inside the game. So I have this one that we just placed. That's the normal one that's inside the regular game, the constant combinator. This one here is special. It has a different name. This is the one that I have added with my mod, MCU read combinator. And it is basically just a constant combinator, but it has a special name, it has a special ID. And I have this other code over here, this Archon code that will interact with it by looking it up by its name and then do whatever it wants to with it. In this case, what we are doing is updating the values that the constant combinator has. I have these essentially templates of Lua code here that contain the command. The command gets that MCU read combinator and it goes and sets the value to it. You can specify what signal you want. So like I just set it to the signal A up there a minute ago. We can specify that. We can specify the value. And that all gets substituted in when we run the command. And so this one was just taking the letters of the message and setting those as the signals, which is not very practical, but was just something I could do once I got this working. What we really want to be able to do is set these signals based on input from the microcontroller. So to bring it all the way around, we have the microcontroller. It has buttons hooked up to it. When we press the button, we want to send the Archon command into Factorio that is going to set the signal on the MCU read combinator that corresponds to that pin or that button or whatever. And that's kind of half of the core idea. This one is the MCU read combinator, so you might surmise that I have in mind an MCU write combinator as well. The read one reads data from the microcontroller and gets it into Factorio. The write one will get data from Factorio and write it to the microcontroller. So you could do things like control lights or control speakers in the real world with signals from Factorio. Nice, thanks for explaining the full cycle. Yeah, for sure. It's a very niche thing for sure. So I wanted to have at least a little bit of background for anyone who doesn't know any parts of what's going on. Okay, so where we will start is, first of all, I literally just updated CircuitPython before I started the stream. This was on like 8.0.0. It now has incompatible MPY files, so we can update those real fast. The Factorio is now the greatest MIDI synth of all time. Yeah, it can be. It will be. Actually, you know what's fascinating about that is you could set up a looper. You could totally set up a looper that's based on Factorio. Because they have belts, right? Like, it's a factory automation game, so the real like way to play the game is set up your belts and like make items and put them on the belts, and they go elsewhere, and you make other items from those items, and you make more items from those items, and you make items that help you make more items faster, so on and so forth. But one of the things you can do with the belts is hook up a read signal to it, so that anytime an item goes across a certain belt, you can get a signal pulse, and it will say, you know, hey, a copper plate just passed this belt that you're watching there with your scanner. So you could totally like set up a loop of belts and then set up rules that it's like copper plate, you know, is an F sharp, and like a steel plate or whatever is an A or whatever. You could set up different notes, different octaves and stuff, and then as they move around the loop, the scanner will scan each item. You could send that in to the microcontroller and then transmit it to MIDI back out to the world into whatever instrument you want. That's actually sounds super fun. I want to do that now. I've not played it, just watch, but I get the impression you can make anything, loop anything, decide anything. Yep. yeah, the core game is all about the factory, building the stuff, launching the rocket and all that, and now exploring the other planets and stuff. But it's like these combinators are Turing complete. You can, like you said, make anything that you want with them if you're dedicated enough. It also has blueprints which let you copy paste, and there's loads of like Python and other code out there that will let you generate blueprints. So people have built computers and all kinds of crazy stuff inside of there. You can like build chunks of that stuff outside and just import it with a blueprint. Okay, that should fix this at least so that that can run. And so right now, this code doesn't do a whole lot. Like if I press the green button, it will say green button was, it says released instead of pressed because we were looking for the rows. Well, we were printing on the rows. We're actually looking for the fell. The thing is, though, the rest of this code is doing all of this like state arm, state neutral, and then it's writing to the data. So one of the unfortunate bits from that old video is the code that was written there did get lost in the great hard drive tragedy of, I don't know, this year, last year. I don't remember exactly when that failed. I think it was last year. So I don't actually have the code that was interacting with this before. I had written some code that would run on the computer and it would listen for these messages, and then whenever it got this message, it would use it to write data into the game. And so basically, we're going to start by kind of re-implementing that. And this time, we have it saved in a place where it's automatically backed up. So if we have another tragic hard drive incident, we will still have the code, and that's nice. You can convert MIDI file to Factorio. Oh, I didn't even know that. That's the thing that exists already. MIDI-torio, there you go. Oh, right, I can't copy links. That is so frustrating. Look at this. Factorio for any song. I don't have a MIDI file ready to go. Download one, maybe. So there are speakers in the game as well. Okay, that's what this does. Yeah, so there are speakers in the game as well, which can play different notes. So this is, I get it. I had never seen this before. This is like taking a MIDI file, importing it into a blueprint so that it will then play on a speaker in the game, I think is what's going on here. That's pretty cool as well. All right. So we need to connect to Serial. This is connecting back to the computer with Serial. It's using data instead of the normal, I don't know, Serial, I think they call this one. So we have Serial and data in CircuitPython. We have two different sort of channels we can talk between. So I have the mod code here, which is the Lua, and I have the Archon test, which has a bunch of like just random code that does different stuff I was testing. So here we're going to start working on the actual serial interface thing. So I do need Python read connect and read from serial. I don't do that up frequently enough to just know off the top of my head how that works. PySerial, I guess we could get. Is that a necessary? Is there not a built-in? Put that open. Maybe let's check further down. Serial, yeah, it looks like maybe PySerial is going to be the way to go. I could go. So the other thing is, like, because I did YouTube, the last one, I did it live, I could maybe find that code like in the video and copy it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to rewrite it, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty much like what we want. And PySerial, yeah, I totally recognize this this logo. This is definitely what I used before. And we should be able to just install this with pip, I'm pretty sure. I don't have a virtual environment yet. I think I was just using CircuitPython one. I'll go ahead and make a virtual environment instead of just continuing to do that. So far, the only thing I had to install was Archon, but that's not really related to CircuitPython, so it might be good to like just get a virtual environment here. Python mvm Factorio. Actually, I'm trying to go VM first always. That way, if I go VE tab, I can always get the right thing. VM. And unfortunately, I think it'd be a bit of a pain. I gotta like go. Okay, I did find it actually, so that's good. But it does like this list gets huge, unfortunately. You did make me wonder now if we're at the point of a tool watching YouTube with the transcript and then giving you the inferred project code from there. Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be a interesting way to try and do it. See if it can deduce it from either OCR or just me talking about it. I do read code sometimes. I mean, not like top to bottom, but like for working on a thing. Okay. That should, I think if I just make a new, if I just make a new terminal here, I can be in that. I do want to have local instead of local 2, even though it doesn't matter. So. We need Archon and PySerial. I think it's just Archon, but I'm going to try to double check here. And then this one is PySerial or just serial? PySerial. Okay, I do need, where was that simple test or whatever? We had that code somewhere. Maybe there's like a width that you could use these days. So mine's gonna probably be on ACM1. Yeah. So 0 is the serial console, 1 will be the data console. 2 MCP servers, the frame by frame code OCR, then the transcript on 1 cloud opus on the top orchestrating. Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy. 30 odd. Yeah, I think we'll just leave all of this stuff. I don't know. See if it works. I don't know if that's right or what we will need. But maybe we shouldn't do that. Do those have defaults? Let's try just leaving those as defaults. We just do that. Oh. Does help if you use the full path, maybe? Ah, there we go. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we get, looks like it stores data as well. Like every time I was pressing the button back then, it was actually sending and like we weren't receiving it or whatever, so it just queued up. So like now if I press the green button again, we should see it print. Although it is printing, nope, actually it didn't do anything. Oh, I don't think am I running the code? I don't think I'm running the code. Oh, I am actually, okay. Just didn't work then. Okay. Well, so there are a bunch of rules in here. There are a bunch of rules in here about what's allowed when. Like neutral, because I went through last time I have this whole state machine that's like armed, neutral, canceled. So you had to like turn the key and then like the red button would cancel. So maybe we just are in like not armed. So maybe the green button does nothing. I'll try red. There we go. So that printed. Yeah. So I think what happened is it's probably not armed. They need to like put the key and then maybe the green button. Nope, that didn't do anything either. I don't know. We'd have to read the code to figure out what it does. But that's fine. We're getting something. The rest of it's probably just like not ooh, although we didn't get a new one. Okay, so that's actually a little worrying maybe, is like we should probably be seeing more. So it actually might be the case that we're on the wrong baud rate or one of those other things potentially. How would we find the default for that? What are we breaking today? We are working with Factorio, and we are trying to integrate a microcontroller, although I have it inside of this fun factory industrial button, panic button key thingy bopper. If you don't know anything about Factorio, let me know, and I will give you a very, very brief overview. But also, if you rewind, I explained a little bit more about what it is and how we're using it and how we're integrating with it if you want more details. But I could give you a high level quick one if you don't know anything about it real fast. I do kind of get the sense maybe we're not on the right speed or something, and like we're missing messages because of that. So this... Okay, so for one thing, there's some stuff that's before the loop. So it does this. So unfortunately, I had this format. I don't actually remember what it means. So set, I mean, S for set, I think that one makes pretty good sense. C2, though, I don't know what C2 would have been. C2. I could possibly... That's something I could probably go back and watch the old video and figure out. I'm not going to do it while I'm working this time. We're talking about the game, right? Yeah, Factorio, the video game, and I want to integrate a physical switch to where when I press buttons and do keys and like do stuff, that it will set signals inside the game so that I can, you know, obviously then react to them and do all kinds of stuff inside the game. And vice versa as well, ultimately. I want to be able to send signals out of the game into the real world, into a microcontroller, so you could like control lights or control real speakers in the real world, not speakers in the game, which you can also do, but like physical stuff in the real world. That while loop has no break to it. True, yeah, that's the way that CircuitPython works. Typically... So this code runs on the microcontroller. I don't know how familiar you are with all of these devices, but the thing that I have inside of here is a Pico W running CircuitPython, and the way that that works typically is a while true loop that just runs forever. I used to play Bobs and Angels before Space Age. Nice. Yeah, I never got much into any of the overhaul mods, but I played the base game a lot, and then Space Age I played a lot as well. Okay, so once we get into the loop, it's if we're armed and we press the green button, then it sends data. If we press the red button, if the state's neutral or the state's armed, it becomes canceled. And then we do this. Maybe C for cancel? Yeah, maybe C for cancel, I guess. That could be. We will table that and see if that continues through. So then we have red button released. We have read the key position. So key button was just pressed. So if the key gets triggered, and I don't know if that's turned left or right or what, but one of the ways it will cause this to be true And so if the state was neutral, then the state becomes armed, and we send that signal S with a value of 3, I'm guessing is what's going on there. And then if the key rose, so the opposite, if we turn the key the other way, if we were armed, we go to cancel, we set that. Okay, the key actually can turn 2 ways, maybe. Okay, yeah, the key has 3 positions. Has center and up and down. I don't know if all 3 are wired. Actually, yeah, it looks like they are. I thought I only saw 4 wires. Maybe maybe there's no light in the button. I thought there was a light in the green button, but maybe that's not true. Yeah, I have no like green button light there, so that's probably not true. Okay, so yeah, the key has 3 positions. So that takes 2 wires plus ground. And I'm using Python to do it. Yep, that's true. So CircuitPython runs on the microcontroller, and then I am also using normal Python, regular CPython on the PC to interact with the microcontroller and send signals into Factorio with Archon. I guess the next step is figure out how to send the data from Pythons to Lua Factorio. Yes, exactly. So that is what's happening. I'll show you the code that does it. Wrong one. So like Archon tests, if you're familiar with Archon, if you're not familiar, rather, it's like a network connection that you can do. Factorio supports this. I didn't add it, but once you connect to that, you can send commands just as if you're typing into the terminal. So this Python code sets the signals on my custom entity. So MCU read combinator is like a clone of constant combinator, essentially. And this code will set the signals on it from Python. So eventually Python will read the microcontroller and then send the signals in. Is that Python code compiled? Not exactly, not really. It gets interpreted at runtime. I will say on the microcontroller, the CircuitPython that runs on the microcontroller, some of it is not compiled, some of it is plain text. The libraries are what we call MPY crossed, which is kind of like a compilation step. And so that part is, in this case, the libraries are debouncer, which is like making it so the button that I can very easily check rise and fall instead of having to like check the actual state, like is it connected to ground or not, and then know what that means and everything. This makes it a cleaner API, and it makes it so that it will pick up in between when you check. Or maybe that's only keypad, actually. I'm not sure if debouncer does that. So I guess this must have meant cancel. C2 must have been cancel, I guess. And then it looks like we're using signal S to convey the state into Factorio with. So this code is all old. I actually did this project like halfway a couple of years ago, and now I'm coming back to it. I use Sublime for Python, which is just text. I gotcha. Yeah. I use PyCharm because it has a bunch of Git helpers, although I think there are Sublime add-ons. One of the other people who works on our team uses Sublime and has like a Git plugin for it or something that does essentially the same thing that PyCharm does. Or Clear, which is just text, or Clear. Or Clear. Oh, Clear, yeah. Could be. I think signal was the state, or S was the state for neutral or canceled or armed. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out the right baud rate for this, and I'm not convinced we have the right one, but we should also, we should be seeing these things come through. And some of them are, but not really all of them. Let's restart. Maybe it got weird with the way that we weren't actually listening for a while. I don't know which direction, so I'll just turn the key. That did not send anything. But am I running the code? I am, yeah. That says key A just pressed. So if the state was neutral, it would have sent something. So maybe the state wasn't neutral. Let's restart this. What state does it start in? Oh, okay, that's what some of this stuff before is doing. So if the red button is down, then we start in the canceled state. If the red button is up, then we start in the neutral state. But it should, either way, it should send a message, and we are... Oh, we did. Okay. All right, so we should be in the neutral state. I think 2 is neutral. 1... No. This 2 is canceled. The red button is up. Interesting. I like the way Alt-Tab works on this sometimes. I'm a masochist. I use Sublime. I run the code and read the runtime error in the logs. Yeah, I mean, I am with you to a degree. One thing I don't do that this can does is I don't really use the debugger to step through code all that much. When I'm debugging, I'm more like you, like just run the current version, look at the error, add print statements. I assume you probably do print statements. But I do like some of the Git helper stuff and some of the searching capabilities especially as well. And having the terminal, I think, integrated is kind of nice. Was my original code written for Factorio before 2.0? It totally was, yes, but I have already updated it for 2.0. Yeah, so the original code was, but I've already done a couple of updates to it. Like right now, I'm trying to figure out though if we are receiving the right signals. So I'm gonna push the red. So right now the red button is up, which I would have thought was like neutral, but it's actually seeming like canceled. So I'm gonna push the red button in, and then we're gonna restart the microcontroller so it reruns the program. Oh, still canceled. Oh, okay. I should read the rest of this. So if the red button, so I don't know what value false is. I don't remember which way it's wired. I'm guessing that's pressed probably, because that's setting it to canceled. So probably that's if the red button's pressed, or if the key is in the middle position, which it is currently. Okay. No, actually it's not though. It's in the right position. So maybe that's saying if the key is in any position that's not the middle. That's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. Okay. Let's turn the key back to the middle. Let's pop the red button and then restart this. I'd print statements in the inner ifs. Yeah, we should probably be printing from here, shouldn't we? There we go. Okay, yeah, that was it though. Okay, so now we should be in neutral. We can arm it, I believe, by turning the key. That would go to the armed state, and then I think the green button would basically launch. And then you could still... There was like a countdown. You could still press the red button to cancel. There's maybe a 10-second countdown or something where you could cancel during that window. Okay. The communication is working. We're good there. So, do I want to reuse this same thing here, or do I want to change this to something else? I'm tempted to, like, change this, honestly. First of all, I don't know why it's sending C2 so frequently. If it is cancel, it's weird that it sends it so frequently. I guess it's got a lot of cancel actions, but I don't quite follow past Tim's logic. And I could watch the video, but again, I'm not going to, like, let you all sit here and suffer through me watching myself in the past refigure out what I did before. I mean, I'm figuring it out from the code, but we're not going to watch the video to do it. I kind of want to just redo this with JSON. If I'm honest, like, this is all short and commas and everything, and, like, it doesn't take up very much space, and that's cool, but, like, I don't know, does the space matter? I think this might be easier if we just had JSON. Then we wouldn't have to be separating these, and, like, you would be able to tell what it was by just looking at it a bit better. So what if we made a new sort of like test data sort of thing here, and that's going to be a so I think what we'll do is, like, this will be like a test command. This is a command, so it has a type. The type is either set, get. Eventually we'll make one. Right now we don't have it. Yeah, that might be all we need, actually. So set, when you set, you're gonna... What would this one have been? Was that the bank? Did they have banks back then? I don't think they called them banks, though, right? What do they call those? Sections, maybe? Groups. They're called groups. That's newer, though, right? Not sure if that existed back then. That's the value. It must have. It must have. Let's say group is 1. We'll say signal. And so again, this is like a lot more text, but it's like way more human readable. So I kind of like that about it. Could mess this up though. Oh, there is actually a type as well, right? Type, virtual, we need that. Signal S. Let me just check the new code. Did they change that? No, I'm just doing signal dash and then whatever. I'm just hard coding this for a test right now. Group is fairly new. Yeah, I thought that was newer. I don't know what the 1 would have been before. Missing the comma after set. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was. Logistic groups is a 2.0. Okay, I wonder what on earth I could have been using the 1 for back then. Maybe maybe I was just... Maybe it was the index. Maybe I was just... So when I did this last time, I didn't have a custom entity. I just, like, searched the world for constant combinators. Maybe that was the index of the constant combinator in the list that I got back from the world. That's my best guess. But now I have a custom entity, and the idea is when I send this signal, all of those entities anywhere in the world are going to get their signals set on them. But now group does exist, so we can use the 1 for that. That's my best guess. Value, so that could be 2 or whatever you want. Just another comma. Maybe it's the index of the item. Oh! The index of the signal, that's probably it actually, right? Because we do need to, the slot, they call it in the game, I think. Yeah. Actually, we need that as well. Yeah, we totally do. No, that doesn't need to be a string though. Yeah, that's probably what it was the slot. They didn't have groups before, but there was still multiple slots, obviously. I have type twice. Oh, okay, so we need a command type, and then this is a signal type, which is like a game thing. Do they have a name for that? If so, we should reuse the name. Signal ID, which has a type and a name. And the types are those. Okay, so signal type, command type. So this is my concept, this is Factorio concept. We have the group, we have the signal type, we have the signal itself, we have the slot that we want to put it in, we have the value we want to set it to. Okay, I think that's everything we need. So this is essentially what we're going to send. So let's start with this first one, since this is super easy to trigger. And what I'll do is actually just, we can just send this one, I think. So we need to dump it and then also still convert it to bytes, it looks like. PyCharm, the IDE I'm using, is also good for some stuff like automatically doing imports, but CircuitPython kind of freaks it out. Well, the way that I keep my files and where I have everything kind of freaks it out because it doesn't know which imports to use sometimes. Signal 5 is an item. Signal S is one of these letters. But it does kind of look like a 5. Actually, there might be numbers too. Yeah, there are totally numbers as well. So signal 5 is a thing in the game. It's not an item, but it is a thing in the game. Like a virtual signal in the game. I don't. Maybe it's technically an item internally. I don't know how that works. I'm just gonna save that and then rerun this, and we should see the JSON come through this time. We did get another C2 still at the beginning, or I mean at the end. I think there's still a bunch of C2 stuff in this. Item entity, whatever. Yeah, totally. Okay. I want to turn this off. And I think what probably happened is maybe another thing in here triggered. I'm gonna actually, for now, what I'm gonna do is just comment out all of the right stuff. Oops. They're officially called virtual signals. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the link as well. Okay, let's try to make, we should only get just the JSON now. I'm gonna restart this so that we, whoops. Try to hopefully just have the JSON. So red was down. I wonder if my logic for red was... I need... Someone said before, I think I should do this. I'm actually also going to say start. Okay, so we started and canceled, and we should have sent this. Maybe the new line actually is a problem, though. Actually, probably the new line is a problem. Yeah, that's probably the thing, right? Because these aren't coming through. I think we need that. And then we're probably going to receive a bunch of them, so I'm going to restart this again. Start this again. Okay, we got one piece of data that's JSON that has everything we need. So now we can get the stuff out of that JSON, do something with it. It's actually not JSON yet though. Does it come through as a string or bytes? It does come through as bytes. So I'm just gonna say bytes data, and then actually we're gonna say string data, and we are gonna convert it. Then JSON data, we're gonna load it, and that will print. Okay. That. Okay, so very subtly different. We don't have the byte string now. We have actual data structure that we can work with. We'll need to remove. I think it will. Something will do it for me. I don't know what. JSON probably. Yeah, I think JSON, because it's new line agnostic. You can have new lines, and it doesn't care where they're at. I don't think. But it probably removed it, I'm guessing. Or not like removed it, but like when it parsed, it didn't mess up the data. It's still there in the string, but okay. We can gank one of these commands. That read combinator. I am wondering, like, it's probably not a bad idea to use an actual templating engine. I just kind of faked a templating engine with string.replace. Which works, I guess, but it's a bit weird. Does this block? I think this blocks until we receive anything. We're gonna have to... Actually, we're gonna have to change that eventually, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah. Yes, we got that as our data now. So we can then send it in. Let me make a function for this as well, just so this is a little bit easier. Set read combinators. We'll just have that take the command, the this object here, this command object. We will need the Archon stuff as well too. So this is one spot where we get a little bit funky. And again, we're going to have to come back and figure out to get a timeout. I think we want to have this timeout. If there's no data, it should return, and then we'll deal with that later. But I guess we're still technically okay for now because we only need to use Archon when we read something. Doesn't like this though. Indent. Oh, right, because this is still just chilling like this. Fair enough. Let me fix that like that for a minute. Python should have string interpolation. It does, but we... It does, but I don't have variables. Well, we have them on a dictionary. I don't have individual variables. Well, but we can still use an F string. Well, can you use an F string on a multi-line? I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah. Let's take this and put it in here. Make this an F string. Oh no, it doesn't like that. Or maybe it just doesn't like that because of... Okay, so maybe F strings might be a way that this could work, but the problem is that the Lua code freaks out the F string thing. Because F string is trying to interpret this as Python template stuff. Yeah. Probably I should end up just using a real templating language like Jinja, and then we could actually do some more cool stuff with that where we can get more efficient Lua code because we could have more loops and stuff in it. I'll leave it like this for now, but it would be nice to not have that problem at some point. I guess we could just take the client too? It's a awkward, but I guess that's fine. So we'll go archon client dot send probably, or whatever the client dot run. Basically, we're gonna want this. You get the response actually as well. Okay, so client dot run the command template, but we're going to replace the slot with the slot that comes from our command object. We're going to replace the value with the value that, you guessed it, comes from there. Signal again. Okay. Don't need any more after that. I guess we could print the response. Doesn't matter. I don't think it will actually respond to this command, really. Format. We could use... Yeah, we could probably use .format. Well, maybe. I think .format, doesn't it have the same thing with curly brackets? I think the Lua tables will still freak it out somehow. Okay. So let's read the data, and then we can call set read combinators. We can give it the client. We can give it the command that came in, which is JSON data. Let's actually call this the incoming command object. We should, like, ultimately, I guess we should, like, validate that it is a command object with a type and all that. We could check the type, I guess. Okay. If we have a type, if the type is set... Oh, we called that command type, though, right? Didn't we? I think I changed that because it was... because we had two types. Yeah, command type, CMD type. CMD type is in that, and that is set. Do that. This says print JSON data. We can just set to that. And you can always just concatenate it. That's true. The templating language, I think, will make it super easy. Double curly braces can be used as an escape sequence for curly braces in the F string. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that, actually. I'm going to leave it how it is for now, so I don't have to mess with it any further, but... Double, interesting. This... And part of the reason I don't want to change it is because, well, I already have relented on this, I guess. I should have maybe used something different for these. But anyway, it's working right now. What I was gonna say is part of the reason I don't want to change it is because it makes the Lua code more confusing to read. But honestly, these already do that. If we'd use percents or something that's not part of Lua, it would have been a bit, well, not part of like Lua common. Like tables are everywhere in this code. Like that, for instance, is part of a table. That's part of a table, but some of them are template variables. But if we did something that's not used by the common Lua code, make the code easier to understand, whereas adding more curly brackets would work, but make it harder. You're replacing slot and both sets of curly braces around it. True. Yeah, so I am using that as like a template variable, essentially. So yeah, we're replacing the word slot and the curly brackets. I'm kind of using the curly brackets as like, this is a template variable that we want to replace. And we don't need curly brackets there because in the Lua code, this is an int. That is the index of the slot you want to set. Oh, also right here, this is the section, it looks like they call it in the Lua code, but group in the UI, I think, and we should be having one of these for this as well, I think. We actually do need another one of these. Yeah, it's janky. Honestly, the solution I'm probably going to end up with is a templating language because I'm familiar with them and they already solved this. Although the one I have in mind, Jinja, does use curly brackets, which is rough because it would be kind of nice actually to have one that wasn't curly brackets. That way it doesn't make the Lua code more confusing. Maybe I'll stick to this half-assed one and change it to not be curly brackets at some point. Let's see if this works though, because this should do everything we need to actually set the value of the thing in the game. Maybe C2 was clear. Maybe it was like clearing all the values on... I don't know why I would have done that though, because we were only using one index. I don't know. Weird. Okay, let's run that, and then let's restart the microcontroller. And I will... Can I clear all of this? Yeah, that works. Oh, okay. So we got here must be a string, not an int. Yeah. These have to all be strings. All the ones that are actually numbers need to be turned into strings to be replaced. That one's already a string. Yeah, it's not the least jankiest code I've ever written. I will say it's definitely a bit on the janky side, the way I'm doing the replace there. All right, we got the signal there. Nice. Okay, so we set the 2 to here. Okay, so we have the plumbing we need to be able to set signals inside the game using our function just past a command object that has all of those different values we need. Let me stream. Yeah, I'm with you there. That would be nice. Okay, what do we want to do next? I think next we... So that should be enough functionality to be able to remake what I had before, like with the like armed, neutral, canceled, all the state machine logic in this. Realistically, we could go through and replace all of these with JSON, and it should essentially behave like it did before. Now, one thing I don't have is there were a couple like deciders in the game that were doing part of the logic for the rocket launch before, and I don't have any of that set up. So there's nothing that will actually like respect the canceled state right now. Do I want to work on that? Or I think I actually want to work on more of the sort of glue between them. So like this would let me get back to launching the rocket with the button, but I think I want to start working on the other way around. So I have an MCU read combinator. I would like to also have an MCU write combinator. However, I don't have... I don't have a super easy visual thing that we could trigger with it right now. The Pico, I don't recall. I think it has an onboard LED, but it's stuffed inside the box and we can't see it. We can just print out. That's fine. We'll just print out. Now you just need variables for everything you want to do. Yeah. Yeah, each of these we would just... we could just alter the value essentially for most of this stuff. And then I think there was one at the end that was sending rocket launcher or rocket silo instead of the virtual signal S or whatever. Okay. So I think I'm going to work on the right combinator next. And I think the way that I want the right combinator to work is... we need an entity that has input signals. So the constant combinator, which is what I copied to make my read combinator, I don't necessarily think that it inputs signals. Maybe technically it can, but mostly it outputs signals. What's up, Abadus? Nice to see you today, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. And so I think what I'm going to do is actually copy the decider combinator because it has a clearly defined input. It also has a clearly defined output, which we're not going to use. It also has all of this stuff, which we're not going to use. But I want an entity with an input. Down the line, maybe I could figure out how to get rid of the output and how to get rid of this. For now, I'm just not going to mess with it so that this will essentially just be like an inputting thing. So I will go to the Lua code for the mod, and we will make a copy of the decider combinator. Actually, let's change some of this while we're here. So this says custom combinator. Let's call this, Lua files. Why are you searching my repository and not like Resty? I don't really want a third party. I don't really want to install a third party thing, unfortunately. I can just use replace though. This is actually the MCU read combinator. This stuff is for sprites. It's turned off right now because that is, like someone said before, one of the things that changed with 2.0 was the way sprites worked, and I didn't bother to go fix it since I'm just reusing the existing sprites anyway. That's high, yep. When you get used to, like, I will say that's one of the things about the IDE that's a bit sneaky. You get used to some of the shortcuts, and then all of a sudden you're either not in the IDE, or in this case we're in a language it doesn't understand, and all of a sudden it's like nothing that you are used to works anymore. That's not true. It's not nothing you're used to, but lots of little shortcuts and things. Yeah, we should probably call that the MCU read combinator item, and we should probably call that the MCU read combinator recipe. Okay. Now we can copy this. And I am actually, for the second one, I'm actually just going to delete this. I'm going to keep those up there in case I ever want to do sprites, because it would be nice to have sprites that are visually different than the ones we're cloning, but for now I'm fine with it. So we are going to get the decider. Is that how you spell that? Yeah. Right, that's another one of the shortcuts is Control W. Actually, I think the hyphen is what's breaking that. I think that's broken even in Python. So we're going to have a right, right, right. Nope. Oh, interesting. I don't know what the order does, really. I mean, I assume that's the order it appears in the menu. I don't really know what that means. C combinators minus C, the one we made. I'm just going to keep the recipes the same for now. Oops. All right. Do we need anything else? I think need this probably. Oh, actually we don't really. This is just printing something when one of them gets placed. I don't really care about that. I'm gonna leave it for the old one, but we don't need it for the new one, I don't think. That's all we need. All right, save that. I have a build script that just zips this and copies it to the Factorio directory. I'm gonna run that. It did fail. I think it I think it's in the wrong directory. It shouldn't have this in the path. No, that's not true actually. It needs that in the path, but it needs to be up one directory with its like working directory. Or I could just copy it up there. Maybe I should just move it up there. Okay, there we go. So that zips it and copies it into Factorio. And then it doesn't really matter, but I'll just save this. Failed to load. The right combinator does not match the key. Oh, I need to update these. I'm surprised the error was not like you added a thing that already exists, like you added a thing twice, but still no. I mean, clearly I have failed to update something. Oh, this is wrong. Yeah, this is wrong. I mean, that is a bit strange if that's what the error. You can add. Oh, you can add things. Okay. Okay. Actually, the prototype name does not match the key name. Prototype name does not match the key name. Prototype name, which I assume is that, not match the key name. This is making me think of Ghostbusters key holder or whatever. Oh, I see it. There we go. Okay, so we copied. Okay, I think that's the error, but it probably actually didn't occur until later in the code. Actually. Okay, there we go. And now we have. Oh, I didn't update the. Yeah, I didn't update the name. We got unknown key, blah, 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 blah. Let's fix that. Is there a restart from here? There should be a restart here. Okay. That's because of this thing. Need one of these for translations. Button LED. I don't know when that was. So I don't think the green button has an LED, if that's what you mean. That might have been back when I was talking about an easy way to visualize the thing. And the green button on this little box like totally looks like it should have a light in it, but I think it actually doesn't. Okay. Nice. Oh, I did it wrong still. MCU right combinator? You need to zip it every time. I am zipping it every time. I don't know for sure whether you need to for certain. You might be able to just copy the folder. I don't know for sure. I have a vague memory of in the past maybe you were able to just put the folder, but like maybe I'm thinking of Minecraft. Maybe Minecraft's different. I don't know for sure. But I have been zipping. Entity name MCU right combinator equals MCU right combinator. Maybe I didn't save the file? I'm pretty sure that should have fixed the name. Okay. Yeah, I think I just didn't save it or something, or I didn't rezip it or something, but it is good now. MCU right combinator. Get rid of that. How do I get rid of stuff? Not get rid of stuff. I mean, the answer in the game is like put it in a box and blow it up. Or don't blow it up. That part's optional. Basically, I don't want a decider combinator in my inventory, since this looks the same. Okay. So a decider combinator has an input side and we can get signals from it, I'm pretty sure, by doing I think we need to do this. Get circuit network, and then from that we can get signal. Let's I think let's make a command. I think we want to make a custom command because do we? Yeah, I think we want to make a custom command, like a custom Factorio command. That's going to make it easier to test this every step of the way while I'm working on the code. Mod how to make a custom command. You want the right combinator to send signals from the game to your switch. Yep, exactly right. Yep, so this will get signals out of the game into the microcontroller, and then the microcontroller can do whatever it wants with it. So one idea I have is like flashing red lights whenever the rocket is ready. Is there one that's just for custom commands? So I actually watched this video. Maybe I'll pull this up. Maybe this knows what it's talking about. In your mods, data lure or similar file. We can do that. Command processor. So this is add command example. So let's call this update write combinators. Args custom command. Update write combinators. Arguments, we'll just let those print, that's fine. Add command. Update, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really want to restart from here. From this menu would be even better. But I would take from this menu too. Two questions. Doesn't constant combinator do that already? Why use a decider? And two, a combinator already sends the signals right. Don't you need to pick it up? No command needed. So for one, I'm not sure if a constant combinator would work or not. It probably would, I guess. The main reason why I chose not to use the constant combinator for this part of it, though, for the input of signals from Factorio and then getting them out to the microcontroller, is because I wasn't sure if constant combinators had like an input of signals. I know they can output, and I know you can connect them to a larger network. So I guess they could get the network, and it looks like they do have get network, so technically it could work probably. But in my head, just kind of like keeping things organized, I really like that the decider combinator, or arithmetic, I could have chosen that one as well. I really like that they have an input side, right? The little triangle that's like, this is definitely the input. Because it helps to convey, I think, that we are inputting signals into that combinator from the rest of the Factorio world, and they're not outputting into Factorio, but they're outputting into the microcontroller. So the input side really resonates with my brain, which is why I chose that one. And then the constant combinator is like the opposite, right? The constant combinator is just blasting signals from the microcontroller, which is essentially what a constant combinator does anyway. Usually it's constant, so it's not changing. The microcontroller can obviously change it, but game is nil. That sounds bad. Yeah, I mean, maybe we should put it here. Let's try putting it here. One thing you will find if you happen to have like actual Factorio modding experience is that I don't really. Constant combinator sends signals. That's how the other entities read them. And you already showed you could get input from the command. Right. So now I'm trying to go in reverse. Like we already have that part done with the constant and getting signals from the microcontroller into the game. So now I'm working on the reverse of getting signals from the game to the microcontroller. And just in my head, sending those signals that we want to go to the microcontroller to the input half of another combinator makes sense to me. We still have nil for this. My experience with the Factorio is also nil. It's a sweet game. You should check it out if it sounds fun to you. I will say it's probably not fun for everyone, but happens to be fun for lots of programmers and engineers, it turns out. Yeah, probably we're not... This isn't where this is supposed to be. Okay, I'm gonna go to this because I actually watched this video the other day. I just clearly didn't retain all of it. Yeah, see, it's even resumed here. So this is in Control Lua. But they don't have anything referencing game. They don't have anything referencing game. So they just did commands.add command. It looks like maybe this doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it's just like that. That could be a 2.0 thing. I have found that the AIs, they can write code that looks convincing and might work on 1.1, but it's not updated yet. Okay, did I run that? I think I did. How come we don't get a restart? That was interesting. My experience with modding is hilariously limited. Yeah, I have, yeah, almost none as well. Like tiny bits here and there, but arguments count error for add command. Okay, we didn't give it the right number of arguments. So this says, this has 3 arguments. I also have 3 arguments, so that's not a great start, but that's actually commands dot, and I have a colon here, which is like, I don't even know what that's about. So let's change that to a dot and just pretend that we never saw the colon. What page was I on there? That said connect to address. Was I in multiplayer page or something? Weird. I'm not sure if I saved it. I think this time I'm pretty sure that I did. Okay, so we should I tilde. Okay, I was like, I don't know what the command button is. We should be able to say update. Does this have tab completion? Doesn't seem like it. Can I execute command? Syntax error near EOF. So did it find the command but then didn't work, or did it not even find the command? All right, let's do one that's not. So what if I do blah blah? All right, exact same problem. So that probably is not existing. Do we need functions? No, because we made a command. Oh, I don't think it's /c though, right? /c, I think that's for Lua, maybe. I think it's actually just /. Ah, and there is tab completion. Sweet. Okay. Super duper. Okay, so that ran. Print, I'm pretty sure print it's just going to like the server console or somewhere. It's not like in the chat, so we can't see it. But when we do this from Archon, I think maybe we'll be able to. Let's try and test that. I'm actually going to make a new Archon test for Archon write test. And we don't need very much of this stuff. In fact, we don't really need any of this stuff. /update write combinators. So I think that maybe response might get the values that were printed. So if we print response here, maybe we will see that stuff that came from Lua. BRB. Yep. We will be here. Should make a statue for whoever invented tab completion. I agree with that, actually. That would be a good statue. Okay. Run this. Okay, we did not actually see anything get printed. Maybe we need to return. I actually kind of like these better. Got no response. Maybe we need it to return instead of print. So let's see if we can return something from this. And the build. Restart this. I need a button that restarts Factorio. Message did go through weird. I must have deleted it from Discord accidentally. Oh, it's gone. Maybe on your side. Got deleted on your side or something. Try this again from here now. So run that Archon write test. No. Let's see if we can find out anything about the Archon thing. The one thing is I need a way to get data out of the game. And I was thinking maybe my custom command could like return a string and then my Python code could get that string. That's what I was thinking. But that does not appear to be working. What's the response to it gonna be, though? Does it ever have a response? It can, I know that it can send data there because I've seen errors get printed, I thought. Never mind, just combined it. Seems like a running show. Oh, running slow. Me too. I mean, it must be able to get data out, though, right? Like, what if I, in my Archon write test, just ran like, so is slash help a thing? Help is a thing. So what if I ran slash help from here? Does it see all that stuff? It does. Actually, it only saw some of it. Interesting. Actually, you know what it did is it didn't print the same things. I think it printed everything it wanted to print, but it was not the same because it knows that this is server console, not the player, basically. But anyway, it proves that it can get data to here, so we need to figure out how, though. Is there like a... do we need to do like game.print? But we don't actually have... Oh, we... Earlier, we were getting errors accessing game, I thought. I don't necessarily want to print it either, though. Even if this works, I don't necessarily think it's what I want to do. Unless the player doesn't see it. I don't really want it to go, like, to the chat box here. Still no response. And it... So that is the exact opposite of what we wanted. It went to the chat box and not... Okay, I'll tell you what. I gotta run to the restroom. Then I'll be back. We'll keep trying to figure this out. BRB. Okay. I think let's check. The page I'm looking. All right, name help function. Print tick. Name help function. Function takes command. Command.playerIndex, command.parameter. command.getPlayer, command.pick, game.print. I wonder what else is on command. Maybe command has like a dot turn or something. That's but that's just strings. Get a command object? I would like to know what this object is. Custom command data? Yeah, custom command data. Oh, that has hardly nothing. The name of the command, the tick that it was used in, the player index, the parameter. How do I return data, though? Back. Welcome back. I wish I could see an example of one of the existing commands. Wait, can we? We have game commands? But that's just a string. The wiki has an overview of these. I wish I could see the Lua code. Well, can we? So the main game is a mod, I thought, but I don't know. Looks like it's not in here. Not sure where it would be. Maybe we could find the code for the base game, though. So what's the problem? I'm trying to figure out how to get data from the custom command. So here, back to control. So we made a custom command. I can run that with /update combinators. I can run that command, and I can run it through Archon so that the microcontroller can essentially have access to it. But I can't figure out how to get it to return. So like I run this command, and if I'm running it from Archon, I go client.run and I get a response, and I'm trying to print that response, and I can't figure out how to populate it from the Lua side. Like I thought maybe just anything that got printed would be that response, but that wasn't the case. And then I thought maybe game.print, but that wasn't the case either. So that's where I'm at, is trying to figure out how to get a custom Factorio command to return back to the Archon thing, which I assume is kind of like just printing basically, but it doesn't seem to be working. And so I started looking through the API code here to see if there was anything. So, and then the reason why I was saying if I could see the help code, if I could see the actual Lua function that is the help function, it would help, because when I did a test sending /help, I got an actual response. So we get a response that actually came from that command. I just don't know how to do that in my own Lua. don't really want to do game.player.print though. I mean, that's, I don't think that's going to go back to the Archon. Game.print. Okay, that's a different thing. And I'm like, let's make extra super sure that this didn't work, right? I definitely didn't get this stuff. We have that. Yeah. Maybe I did the old didn't save it or didn't run it or whatever. Let's make sure that that's not what happened. Yeah, so that one we just get no response. So game.print is printing here. So we saw return value get print, but it didn't actually go to the response. Nope. Can can you get the base game? Factorio base game Lua code? Can you look at the Lua for the base game? I don't need data raw. What? No, there's a Lua. I'm pretty sure there's a Lua for the base mod. I don't know where my Steam apps is though. Steam apps common. Factorio app. Didn't have that layer. Contents, have that either. Case. Data. And it's surely in here somewhere, but can you make your own custom start screen stuff like the menu? Dude, you could totally just put your own saves in here, I think. That's pretty sweet. Client print, so what or client print. Is there a client.print? Well, do you mean client in the Python code? You mean client in the, you must mean, I'm thinking you must mean Python in the client code. Yeah. But I don't think it will, I mean, I need to print from the Lua, or I need to get data from the Lua into the Python code. So there is another potential way we could do this, but I don't really want to do it that way, if I'm honest. Okay. Well, this folder, I think, has a lot of the stuff we need. So let's open this in the terminal, and then how do we search these files? Linux terminal grep all files recursively. Grep r pattern dot. Easy enough. Grep r. The pattern I want is adding the command. And dot. None. Okay. Well, valiant attempt, I guess. I think in the code that sets the command. Not sure what you mean, I don't think. I mean, somewhere in here must be the help function, the help like custom command, but this is not finding it. And then of course like help is gonna have a bajillion hits. All kinds of unrelated stuff. There's actually not that many. So yeah, this is maybe what we're gonna get stuck with. I don't want to do it that way, but we might have to. So I could write to a file from the Lua code, and then the Python code could read that file and just always look for new versions. I don't really want to do it that way, though. I want to be able to get data more directly, if at all possible. Is there like a Factorio modding Discord? Factorio. Is there a modding part on there? Modded? Not really modded though, modding. Dev guide? Dev help. Yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work. Well, we'll try it again, because make sure I didn't mess up the save. So now we have it returning the string of something. On earth is that in my pocket? That is so random. That threw me off. No, still no response. Did still print that. I don't know where the regular prints are going either. Probably the log. If we went and looked in the actual Factorio log, we might be able to find these ones. And how do I make a custom command that will respond to the caller with some thing, i.e. I connect to a server with Archon and run /help to get a response in the Archon channel. The message printed by the command. How can I make custom command that similarly responds with some message? I have tried print and game.print and return. Okay. It looks like this is fairly active potentially as well, because there's a couple comments from like the last 10 minutes, so fingers crossed, maybe hopefully we will have somebody with some insight there. But while that is, did I run the command? I ran it through Archon here. So like kind of yes, but technically like from this I ran it. You can't now, if I run it like this, I think, well, no, I think it's still actually just going to print return value. Is there a clear? Can you do that? Can, okay. Yeah, so it does, it prints here still, and it's still unclear where the other prints are going, and in that case, it's also a bit unclear where the return value went. Anywhere, I guess probably it just got ignored, honestly. Archon.print. Helpful person here says Archon.print. And the build. Why does the help command has archon.print in it? So the help command for Archon is different. That's the other thing, is we saw specifically the Archon command, save and quit or whatever. We didn't see any of the real commands, the regular commands. So there must be like a special Archon help, which has Archon print in it. But this should do what we need, I'm pretty sure. Hey, that's what I said. Archon.print. I didn't know that there was an Archon. Last post references. Oh, it does. Print something. Yeah, I didn't know that Archon existed as an object that we could just use. Thank you, though. Even though I missed it. I do appreciate it. Okay, so now we can try this from here. There we go. Nice. Okay. Now, what we need to do is compile together all of the values that are in the input signal of this. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an actual constant combinator, a plain old regular constant combinator, not my MCU write. Oh god. It says output. That's the old name. Do you see that old name over there? I can't point to it with the mouse or it's going to go away. But on the right over there, it says MC. It's probably below me, actually. MCU output. I think I need to update the name somewhere. Now we can actually test this. So we're going to say constant combinator to the input. We can just give it a value of something. Let's just say like, I'm going to use 5 and I'm going to use it in anticipation of that meaning like pin 5, maybe? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use 5. What is my goal in the end? Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for watching and chatting and such. I appreciate you just hanging out here. But my goal is I have this. Oh, the camera's dead. I have this industrial button thingy. And I would like to be able to use it to control stuff inside the game, namely the rocket launch is the most fun thing, I think. And so I have a whole system where like you have to turn the key to arm the system, and then you can press the green to launch, and then like you can always press the R to cancel, like abort mission, and that has to be twisted. So that's my like low level first part of my goal here, is to be able to use this thing to control stuff inside the game. Inside of that box is a Pimeroni Pico W. If you're familiar with like microcontrollers and stuff, this is a really common, really cheap microcontroller. And so I'm communicating from the signals in the game into some code that's running on this microcontroller. And right now we have it working one way. So technically right now, like it's not actually working all the way, so I can't show you, but the technical parts that we need are in place to where I could have the green button like set the rocket silo signal in the game, and then we could use that to actually launch the rocket. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to go for the reverse. I want it so that signals in the game can get sent to the microcontroller so that you could trigger stuff based on game things. So I could have like, you know, let's say you could have like a red light flashing whenever the rocket is ready, you know, like when it pops up from the silo and it does its like siren and stuff. I could have like an actual red flashing light in my room outside the game that goes off. Or another one that I thought might be funny is if you had something watch your power in the game, and then when you lost power, you could have a microcontroller that turns off your monitor and the lights in your room. So like you lose power in the game, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in the dark in your room. I think that would be hilarious, honestly. Let me tell this person thanks. Fog machine and a strobe light for launch. Yeah, there you go. Fog machine would be dope. That would be really cool. And long term, I'm building MIDI. Yeah, so that would be the other thing. A MIDI loop would be cool as well. So you know how like you can have a belt, right, with that makes a loop, and we could have items on the belt, and then of course we can hook up the belt to a scanner or whatever, right? So it can see each item that goes across. We could send that into the microcontroller. And then the microcontroller can be hooked up to like a piano, a MIDI piano or whatever. And so then it can be like Iron Belt plays, you know, F on the piano or whatever. We can write songs like using a looper on belts in the game that get played on a real instrument, which also sounds super fun. So yeah, high level, like integrate the real world with Factorio. Low level, those are my specific ideas so far, but it's like once the glue between the two works, once you can communicate back and forth, then it's kind of like the world is your oyster. You can make anything, essentially. You probably have to parse the log for Archon. So we don't actually. So the Archon print, we are already getting it because we are running our custom command from Archon, and it's just returning that specific value to us. We don't have to bother parsing the log to try to read it out of there and ignore a bunch of stuff or whatever. We're able to just get that. And so now what we want to do is, instead of just returning a random string, we want to return all of the input signals on the MCU write combinator. And in order to do that, we will need to talk slower so that we can stall for time to figure out what we actually need to do. I think we need to do this. We need to do pretty much... Let's start with this. I'm going to turn the... Oh, hey! It knows some Lua. It knows that comments are that. How come it doesn't know whatever I tried earlier that didn't work? Okay, I did call this output, so I'm going to actually call this write. I'm going to be official and actually call it write combinators. MCU write combinators. So that's find entity, find. I want to find all the write combinators. MCU write. And then we can do end over here. So I think we actually want a table also. And my lack of knowing Lua is showing Lua make table. Because a table is like a dictionary, right? Okay. How do you manipulate stuff on it? How can, like, I can get a thing by constructors? Just signals? You make an empty one and then add stuff to it? You add, how do I add stuff to a table? Add entries to table. What is I use DuckDuckGo as my default search engine, and !G makes it go to Google instead of DuckDuckGo. So like some things Google is better at finding, other things DuckDuckGo is fine for. Table.insert value and then index. Are tables lists or dictionaries? Do I care? I mean, I need a dictionary ultimately because we need a foo equals bar. Okay. Yeah, because we need to basically. So this, what I want for this table is it should hold keys that are signal names, and it should hold values that are values, and it's going to be a complete list of all of the input signals across all of the write combinators in the world, which is probably not efficient, but I don't care about efficiency. Signals. No, we're not even ready for that yet, though. First, we need to actually get the signals out of here. So we need to say get network or whatever. Decider combinator. So I think it's actually just on parent class, but get, so we want get circuit network. Yeah, I'm just gonna make variables for these. Local network equals MCU write the current combinator dot get circuit network. And that's has a wire connector ID. Defines wire connector ID. I'm in a hardcode green for right now because that's what I'm using. But eventually, oh, actually, we want input. Eventually, we'll do red as well. Maybe we'll make some rules around green and red. I don't know. Maybe we'll keep them separate and send them both to the microcontroller. The signal's key equals, yeah. I think you are onto it. So that gives us the network. Once we have the network, we can then loop over the signals in that network. So for signal name in network dot signals, is that a function or a properties here? I think it's a property, I guess. Well, how does that know about that? Look at that. How does it know that exists? It's used somewhere else? That's weird. That's helpful though. Okay. So then, now finally we can fix that because it being 5 spaces is going to drive me insane. Signal name equals network dot get signal. This wants a signal ID though. We need to actually build that. Network dot get signal. Yeah, it must have been used somewhere else, and that's why it was listed. So name, that one's easy. They use the same syntax as Python or no? Where else do I have one of these? Okay, equals. We want equals, not colons. Okay, so name is signal name. And then we need both of these. So we need a quality ID. Is there like, is there a constant for this? Or maybe if I skip it, what if I just don't pass it? Will it work? Defaults to normal. There we go. The type of signal, if type is items, this will be nil. Okay, that's one of those. Oh, you know what's weird though is... Oh, these are not strings. But they don't have the type. They do have the type because they had this object. Okay, this is a signal object, not a string. This is not signal name. This is actually signal object. And that means here we need to get the name. No, we need to get dot signal. Do we use dots or square brackets? Dots. Dot signal dot name. And then we get that type. Actually, does this takes a signal, so we could just pass the object. I'm being silly, aren't I? Do I look like I'm in the cave now? Not exactly. Just look really bright. It has gotten a lot darker. I think it's about to storm. Name is inside signal ID. I think, can I just pass the, no, wait. Signal is, oh, signal is a signal ID. Okay, but signal has a signal ID. So we should be able to just say get signal and then signal object dot signal. Not the best name in the world, but I think, yeah, because that's taking a signal ID and a signal has a signal ID at the property called signal. So signal object dot signal will be the signal ID. We should be able to pass that to there. I'm missing a square bracket there. So that should get the signal, and it should, so we need to get the value still. So far that's just the name. Are we gonna need the type? We might need the type also. Maybe we should not put the value, and instead maybe we should put the whole signal object, and then, oh, yep, there's the rain. Wait, where's the value? Or wait, get signal doesn't, what does get signal return? Oh, get signal returns an int. So that does actually return a value. So actually, do I care about the types? Maybe I don't care about the types. Because I was thinking like virtual item, all that stuff, but I don't think I care about that on the microcontroller side. I think I only care about the name and the number. That sets the value of the signal from signal ID to a key called signal name. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what we want. So then we should end up, so like right now I only have one signal, 5, and it's set to 1. So we should end up with our table having signal dash 5 or whatever is the name of that, and then the value of 1. And then let's look for helpers. I think there's a thing called helpers, and I think there might be JSON. Yeah, table to JSON. So I think we could then go archon.print. Do we have to import this or anything? I don't know how that works. Well, in that grep I had earlier, we saw just said, it said helpers, right? Helpers.write file. So if I just say helpers.table to JSON, will that work? Will we give it signals? I should call that signals table, maybe. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. Let's see how it goes. Not sure how confident I am. I'll save this because I do want my combinators there. All right, I think I ran this already. I'm just gonna run it again. I think I was out of coffee a while ago. Did not immediately crash, but it did when we loaded the game. Control Lua, line 20 expected. Okay, so that's wrong. Oh, probably the equals, right? Do we even need to do that? I don't know. Maybe if we actually need it to be that way or not. It's interesting that it died when we loaded the game, not when we, like when we loaded the save, not when we opened Factorio. Because as a syntax error, I think I would have expected it to die right at the end of this, like we were seeing those errors before. Maybe because it doesn't run. It shouldn't run when the game loads either, I wouldn't have thought. Do expected near signals. 26. Oh, I did this wrong. Okay, there we go. Build again, close this again. Man, that restart. Yeah, we are just randomly in multiplayer. That's interesting. I guess it's because I clicked. Did I click? I think I clicked to like rerun the last hosting. Okay, it didn't crash. Are getting somewhere. Let's run can Archon write test. Not ideal. Oh. Okay. Attempt to call a table value in function. Attempt to call a table value. Maybe I missed an equal sign. What's the difference between do and do local? Truth be told, I don't actually know. Do local? I mean, this, so local here is trying to make a variable. What it's intending to do. If there is actually like a do local, I'm not familiar with it. There's supposed to be a new line in there. In where? In here? I don't really know the I don't really know the rules of Lua. Similar to that though. Of course, I have also changed the lines now. Attempt to call a table value. I'm not sure which line was. There's no do local. The code block I linked above doesn't have a line. Oh, I see. YouTube cut it off. I gotcha. Rick says you need to do pairs. Thank you. I figured pairs was only needed for this one because it was doing these. This is a list though, so would it be index? Oops. We need to build. All right. I will probably wrap it up here fairly soon. I usually stream about 2 hours. We're already over that by little ways. I'm definitely getting a bit antsy. I'm ready to get up and move around a bit. Yes. That is beautiful. Okay, and now let's make sure this works real quick for more stuff too. So if we had a K as 10, and we had whatever as 20, we should get all of those. Beautiful. And then one more thing that I'll test is it should work for multiples of these as well. So if I have another one of these, which I don't have. Ooh, actually I had 50. Why did, oh, I don't have any bots. I don't have any bots. So used to playing with bots. What happens if you just type C Archon? I don't know. You mean from here or from the other one? Well, I don't actually have easy access to the other one. On print. Says it ran, but the thing is, we're not. Are we? We're not still connected back here right now, though. But we couldn't tell. Like, I'm not sure if that came through the Archon socket or not. We could, let's try, I'm slightly interested in this now as well. Let me see, let's do an Archon read test. Actually, let's do a Archon, yeah, I'm just gonna call it read test. Technically, read is a different context here, but that's fine. Actually, is there? I don't know if that's gonna work, actually. Is there a client.read? That returns a client. But client.run supposedly returns a client too, and I was getting a string. Weird. Let's say incoming data. Okay, so this one will just connect and read. I don't know if we need a loop or if that's blocking or what. I'm just gonna try it like this. Yeah, it looks like that's blocking. Oops. Nope, looks like it does not come through if you run it that way. Are you using Factorio Archon Pi? I am not. I didn't know that existed. I am just using Archon, just Python Archon. So like pip install Archon is what I had to do. Are you able to keep the socket open? Yeah, you are. I think. I guess I'm not entirely sure how this is handling it under the hood, but I assume it stays open. Time for the victory lap. Yes. Let's just wire up another one of these as well. And we'll put a different signal on it, and then our result on the Python side should be like all of the signals combined, not added. So it's important to note that it's not going to add. We should build in adding, though. It should. Like, what I'm saying now is, like, right now we have K5 and assembly machine 3. By default in Factorio, if you were to have, you know, assembly machine 3 and it's like 3 or whatever, and you put them both on the same line, they would add together. You'd end up with 23. Currently, we don't have that logic. Instead, it would only take one of them. One of them would overwrite the other one. Whichever one comes second, that's gonna be the one that like wins. We need logic here that says if it's already in the dictionary, then add the value to the existing one. And if it's not in the dictionary, then add it. And yeah, sorry, I called it a dictionary even though it's a table because I'm more used to writing Python. Okay, but let's check this part first, and if this works, I think I'm probably going to wrap it up for a bit. So we should get all 4 of those signals if everything works. Yes, beautiful. That is great. All right. I think I'm going to stop there for now. We have successfully gotten both directions working. I can send signals from the microcontroller into the game. I can send signals from the game back out to the microcontroller. With those primitives, we can essentially do any number of fun things. But now it is time to get up and move around a bit. So thank you to everyone for watching. I appreciate all the folks in the chat and on Twitch and YouTube and Discord. If you want to help you get the signals out, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it, but I am definitely ready to get up and move around. I would say if you are interested in this type of stuff, feel free to follow on Twitch or whatever they call that, followers, scribe, whatever, or on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe there. I will give you kind of the fair warning. My typical stream topic is CircuitPython stuff, so the microcontroller half of what we're doing here, that is what I work on most typically. So this is not necessarily like gonna just turn into a Factorio modding stream, but I will probably work on this the rest of the way on stream as well. That way it's all on video. So if you want a couple of more Factorio dev streams, you can follow. If you like CircuitPython stuff, you can follow. And yeah, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. And I should be back for a deep dive next week. That's a CircuitPython thing on Fridays, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, and then I'll be back on Saturday at the usual time, 10 a.m. Central for my stream here. And who knows, if you follow, perhaps I'll pop up in between and you'll get notifications. So long, farewell, thanks for watching, see you later.